Hi guys, Mrs. Vance here. All right, so today we are going to do a little something different. So you have your polar bear, okay, right? But he needs somewhere to live. So polar bears like to live in cold places like the Arctic. And when I think about places like Iceland and Greenland and all those places a little bit up north, I think of the northern lights and I think of those beautiful sunset skies. So we are going to create that look with watercolor on our watercolor paper. So that's the first thing you need to make sure you have is your watercolor paper. Now you might need help from somebody else to figure it out, but your watercolor paper has a little bit of a texture on it and it's thicker. It's much thicker than the paper that you use to draw your polar bear, okay? So make sure we have that thick paper. We've got our watercolor set. We've got a cup of water and you've got your brush. Your brush should have been in your watercolor set. If you have other brushes at home that you would like to use instead, please feel free. But the one that comes with the kit from school is fabulous as is. Now, we are going to be doing a new technique called wet into wet. It's something that you might not have done before. So we'll talk about that in a second. But the first thing we need to do is prepare our landscape, our background, okay, our area, and it's just going to be a sky, but we want it to snow. So what we're going to do is you're going to take a white oil pastel, and I'm going to make sure the tip of my white oil pastel is nice and clean. Yours should be brand new, so it should be fine, but if yours is a little bit dirty, go ahead and I'm basically just taking my sketchbook and drawing on it little and like rolling and getting the color off of the top. And now it's all white, so it looks good. So we're going to take that white oil pastel and all I'm going to do is make some hard dots. And I'm not going to do too many, maybe like 12 or 15 or so. And I don't really have to worry about the bottom half of our paper because our polar bear is going to get that's going to get covered up. Okay. And what this oil pastel is going to do is it's going to resist the watercolor. So it's going to just add a little bit of white to our background once we are done. Okay, so oil pastel is done. I can put that away. We are ready to paint. Now, I talked about winter and northern lights and cold. When we think of cold, what colors do we think of? We think of the cool colors on the color wheel, right? So our warm colors, just a reminder, are our, reds, oranges, yellows, things that remind us of fire and summer. Our cooler colors are our purples, our blues, even sometimes green, but I would argue that this green is going to be a little bit too warm today. So we're going to focus on those turquoises, those purple colors that we've got kind of towards the middle of our color palette. We're staying away from these warm colors. We don't want to touch those, okay? The reason why we don't want to mix our cool and our warm together is because when you mix like a red with a blue, you're going to get brown. And we don't want brown in our background. We don't want landfill, dirty polar bear. We want beautiful environment, clean air polar bear, okay? So just a reminder with our watercolors, how they work. We're going to take our brush. We're going to rinse it with some water. And then we are going to gently brush some water over the top of our color. And I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to warm up all of my colors. So I'm going to rinse and I'm going to do the blue and just get some water resting on the top of those colors ready to go. Just like this. All right, so I think those are all the colors I'm going to use. Remember I said all of those purples, blues, and turquoises are good to go. So I've just kind of warmed them up, okay? I've gotten them ready. That's why they're not super stiff. Now remember, watercolors are tiny. They're tiny for a reason because water is our main activator, okay? So the water part is the most important part. So we want to make sure that we are letting the water do the work. So what we are going to do is you're going to take your brush and we're going to go kind of section by section because we can't do the whole paper at once because it will dry too fast. So I'm going to take my wet brush and I am just going to brush that cleanish water over. I'm going to do the upper left corner first because I'm right-handed and I don't want to sweep my hand over it. So I'm just brushing some water on. So the water is standing on top of the paper, a little bit puddly, but not super, super puddly. All right, so that's it. I've done that one. And now I'm quickly going to go pick up some paint that's already ready to go. And now watch, I'm just going to touch it in places. and watch it spread. And now I'm going to rinse my brush and I'm going to go back and get a different color. And I'm going to drop it in. And I'm going to let those mix. And now I can kind of go with my paintbrush a little bit, not too much, and kind of let them naturally sort of blend together. I'm going to go ahead and grab one more color and let that mix. So I would say 3 to 4 colors is your maximum, because if you do too much, it's going to get really muddy. All right, so I'm just kind of dropping it in. Now you are going to notice that your paper is going to start to curl. Don't panic, that's okay. But hopefully you're working in a space where it's okay to get a little bit messy. All right, so I'm done with kind of one section, okay? I don't want to mess with it too much. We want to keep it kind of tie-dye. So I'm going to quickly grab my paintbrush that's rinsed out, and I am adding water to the other side. You're going to see some of the paint is going to start to move and slide over to this right side over here. That's okay. We kind of want that to happen anyways. All right, so making sure that I've covered everything with some water. And now I'm going back to those colors that I was just using and dropping them in, doing a little bit of paint. And notice how quickly I'm working and how gentle I'm being with my paintbrush. Remember, when we do watercolors or anytime we paint, we tickle the paper with the tip of the brush, kind of like a ballerina tickles the dance floor with her ballet shoes. All right, so I've got all my different colors and I'm letting them kind of dance around the paper, and you can see some of those white spots are coming to life. That's our snow. Okay. All right. So we're going to keep moving. So now I'm going to kind of move my way down the paper. And the paint's going to start to kind of drag with you. Remember, that's totally okay. It's really fun to watch the colors sort of move and start to blend together. So I'm going to go all the way across this time. And now I'm going to grab those paints. And you don't have to do it. I'm kind of changing the order that I lay down those colors. And again, I'm letting them kind of dance around the paper. It's really fun to watch. It's kind of like a science experiment. It reminds me of like geodes and crystals when it starts to spread. I need that blue in there that I used. All right, and now I'm on my way to the very end here. Clean water again and kind of paint over this whole last bottom section. Again, you're going to end up pulling the paint down with you. That's okay. That makes sure that it's not super bright in any areas. And we're painting this whole background. And I do have a little puddling in the middle, so I'm going to take my brush and kind of just push it a little bit so it doesn't end up really soaking wet in that middle spot. It won't matter too much because our polar bear is going to cover most of that. But hopefully you like how your psychedelic tie-dye sky is kind of coming out. My purple got a little dark, so I'm going to add some water to my brush and just kind of mix and fill in any spots that I missed here. All right. If you look at your paper and you have some crazy puddles, you can go ahead and you can grab a paper towel and you can just carefully, ever so carefully, kind of touch your paper and blot some of those puddly spots. But you don't want to do it too much because it is going to soak up some of your color. And it will ruin a little bit of that texture too. All right, so the most important about this whole process is that you need to let this dry, and it's going to take a couple hours to dry completely. So hopefully you can leave it wherever you are working so nothing moves. But if you need to move it somewhere else, carefully slide it onto maybe like a cookie sheet or something where you can kind of put it out of the way and let it dry somewhere else in your house. All right, I'm looking for any areas that I might have missed. No big deal if you did. It's just me being a perfectionist. Hopefully that you like your background. I'm really excited because we're going to take those polar bears and we're going to cut them out, and you're going to kind of get to see it come to life with your background. All right, guys, have a good one.